dudes, and welcome back to the Bantz. As always, I am your host, the Bantz, and here we are once again on another Saturday, and as always, I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. But to go along with that, let's move into our second what's happening in fashion for the week, so let's just get right into it. And first up, of course, we have our headlines for the day. And first up, we finally have some concrete, some definitive news on whether or not editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine, Anna Wintour, is finally leaving the company. Now, over the last couple weeks and months, you may have heard some rumors, some whispers here and there about the idea of Anna Wintour leaving Vogue magazine. And this would be a huge event, not only just for Vogue and for all fashion print publications in general, but really for the entirety of the fashion industry. The reason being because over the last 30 years, and yes, that's how long Anna Wintour has been editor-in-chief at Vogue magazine, she and her team have done just such an amazing job at evolving fashion, at making it more inclusive, at making it more welcoming, and just bringing in so many new designers and ideas and styles to print and publication that we've never seen before. And if she were to leave, would that mean the end of Vogue as we know it, or is there somebody out there who could possibly fill in her shoes to what she's done and push forward into the next 3 decades? Well, the good news here, at least for Vogue, is that they won't have to be answering these questions yet, as the CEO of Condé Nast, the parent company that owns Vogue, has announced that Anna will be staying on as editor-in-chief indefinitely. So at the very least, Anna will be staying around for a couple more years. But as I said before, this whole rumor mill has really brought up some very interesting questions and really makes you think a lot about what the future of fashion publication, especially fashion print, holds for all of us. Then in a rather interesting turn of events, Lil Yachty went to Instagram to show off his rather large Supreme collection, which he is going to be selling very soon, and I think it brings up some very interesting ideas. So in a quick little video, as I said, posted to Instagram, Yachty showed off probably close to 100 shirts, as well as some very rare pieces in there that he said he was going to be taking to Grail and just basically selling them off. And the reason why? Well, he basically just said that he was tired of seeing all this Supreme. Although that really doesn't imply if he meant in his closet or if he meant on the street, online, or basically anywhere else. But even with that said, the fact of the matter is that we're finally seeing a somewhat prevalent person in basically any industry, but in this case the music industry, finally getting rid of a large bulk of Supreme because they just don't want it anymore. And first up, I really don't think this is about the money, because of fucking course he's going to make so much bank on this, because one, it is Supreme, and two, it was his stuff, and God knows there's tons of people out there that will buy it for either reason, really. I mean, this is Lil Yachty. I mean, yeah, he's not the most prevalent artist in society or the biggest by any means, but I mean, he's still gotta be swimming in cash at least, right? And although we have seen plenty of big names in fashion, in music, in sports sell off things like sneaker collections over the last couple years, that's a little bit of a different game in my opinion. Mainly because a lot of the kicks that those guys were trying to sell off were from a different area and for a different kind of buyer in general. Like, most people that are my age and younger probably wouldn't be interested in most of those, unfortunately. But this, on the other hand, is different, because Supreme still is a major powerhouse and still pretty much the biggest streetwear brand around. So seeing this finally happen, this brings up just one major question to me, and that is, are we finally starting to see a decline in Supreme once again? Now, if you think back a couple years, there was a point in time where something, albeit somewhat similar, happened. You might remember when a certain other young rapper, this time A$AP Rocky, went after a little known company called Bentrill. And some of you also might remember that after he went out and attacked them, that company really didn't do so well after either. And although yes, these two stories are very much different, the fact of the matter is it was in their own separate ways a rapper calling out a brand, so to say. So even though yes, Lil Yachty isn't attacking anybody here, it makes me still wonder if this is just the first crack in the dam of what's yet to come. But once again, if you guys have any other opinions on this, or maybe another idea in general, feel free to hit me up. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this as well. Alright, and now let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, the Solar Panel Art Series showed off some of their newest works. And basically what these are is they take a bunch of solar panels and redistribute them to different artists, different graffiti artists who use these repurposed solar panels as a medium for their paintings, which are then auctioned off with all proceeds going to help children in Rwanda get lighting for their schools. And not only do I find the idea amazing, but the paintings are very fantastic as well. So if you want to see a little bit more of these paintings or just learn a little bit more about the art series in general, I think this is definitely worth a look. Then Jeff Soto showed off some of his newest works from his exhibit, which is currently being held in Lancaster, California. And once again, just amazing work by Soto here. Even though we talked about a lot of surrealism in the last video, this is just by far some of the best as well. And if you're a fan of it, then definitely check this out. And lastly, if you happen to be in LA anytime next weekend, then I would definitely take some time out of your day to check out the Spoke Arts annual Hayao Miyazaki show, where they bring in over 100 different artists, be it painters, designers, illustrators, and the like, to show off their works, all inspired by Miyazaki's films. So this is of course a definitely must-see in my book. However, if you can't make it out to LA next weekend, then I definitely check out some of the photos here. Just really cool stuff. Now moving back into fashion for the day, first up, Vfiles came together with brand Diesel to show off some of their community-made collaborative work, and I really love the idea here. Basically what happened here is Vfiles went to their community and brought up what they considered some up-and-coming designers to take a bunch of Diesel silhouettes and either deconstruct them or reconstruct them into their own unique works. And I really do think this is a fantastic idea. As I've said many times before, I absolutely adore when brands bring in some up-and-comers, some people who are more young in the industry, and give them not only a little bit more limelight, but the ability to show off their creativity. And I do have to say that when it comes to the pieces here, I do think that a lot of the designers did a very fantastic job of showing off this creativity as well. So if you want to see some very nice, in my opinion, deconstructed and reconstructed pieces, or even just want to learn a little bit more about the whole collaboration here, then definitely take some time to check this out. Then Italian brand First Pattern showed off their fall-winter 2018 lookbook, and I really did like a few of the ideas in here. Now, for those of you unaware, let me give you a little bit of a rundown on First Pattern. Basically, the brand has been around now for a couple years and is very highly emphasized on Italian-made goods with really quality materials in, of course, men's contemporary designs. And if I had to compare it to anything to make it a little bit easier to understand, think of kind of the European equivalent to an engineered garments. And in this lookbook, we see plenty of all of these things. We see some very nice quality designs mixed with some very high-end materials and some very nice silhouettes to match. Plus, we even see the inclusion of what I would consider some tech pieces and even some tech hybrid pieces. And I think First Pattern did a very nice job of pulling them off in this collection and making them feel cohesive to the whole product. So for those of you out there looking for a little bit of a more adult, more mature style, but still with some very nice and interesting designs mixed in, then this is definitely worth a look. Then Kith showed off their newest summer 2018 lookbook, and honestly, I'm not a fan. Over the last year, Kith has done an absolutely amazing, I'm talking amazing job with not only their in-house line and the majority of their collaborations as well. And although yes, they have had a few misses here and there, this unfortunately is definitely one of them. Aside from the fact that this collection seems to be lacking in size compared to the majority of their other collections, it also seems to be really lacking in creativity as well. Sure, the silhouettes seem to be pretty much on point and the materials themselves seem to be of very good quality as well, but when it comes to some of the graphics, the embroideries, and especially the all-over prints, they just kind of seem lackluster and slapped on at the last minute, especially because some of them even copy each other very heavily. So unless you consider yourself a huge fan of Kith, I wouldn't take too much time to look this lookbook over. Then, if you don't really know a lot about luxury watches and want to learn a little bit more, or as to why they are so expensive, Highsnobiety put out a very kind of small video series kind of going into a brief overview as to what it takes to make some of these luxury watches, and I do have to say that it is fairly light on a lot of details here, and really only worth looking at if you know pretty much nothing about watches. But even so, if you don't know anything, that's not a problem. I do think this is a good place to start, and I am really happy to see some of these more mainstream outlets kind of bring more people into the fold on this whole area of fashion that a lot of young people don't tend to see themselves really talking about. And lastly, Huff came together for their newest collaboration, this time with the Japanese artist Hajime Sorayama, and I think overall it's a pretty decent collection. Even though this isn't the biggest of collections, especially compared to some of the more recent ones that Huff has done in collaborations, I still think that Huff and Sorayama here have done a very nice job of choosing out the different paintings, the different graphics, and even the placements of the graphics on these pieces. We're not seeing a lot of copies here. Every piece feels like its own individual unique piece. And as Huff does so well alongside a lot of those other skate brands out there, the prices here are fairly well balanced. So if you've ever been a fan of Hajime's work and have just never had a chance to pick up any of it before, or maybe you're new to his work and really enjoy this style, well, there's definitely no better time to pick up this work than now. And on just one last parting note, it is really nice to see Hajime Sorayama back in streetwear once again after God knows how many years. And finally, let's move on to our articles for the day. First up, Imagine Pub put out a absolutely incredible article on specialty denim and marketing around it, and they really just drive these ideas in home. Like, I can't even go into the detail that they talk about going into materials and marketing and explaining your brand and just, oh my god, so many different things. If you've ever even had the slightest thoughts of starting your own denim brand, then definitely check this out. There is just so much useful information here. And lastly, Highsnobiety put out a very nice read on the history and overview of the relationship between Jun Takahashi of Undercover fame and Nike, talking about some of their earlier collaborations, all of which led up to Gyakuso, and what it's kind of turned into today in more recent seasons. And once again, very nice read. If you're a fan of either, or even just athletic wear in general, definitely check this out. Alright guys, and with that we reach the end of our second and final whiff for the week. As always, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and also as always, if you want to read any of the articles I mentioned today or see some images I wasn't able to include, I've linked everything in the description down below. And if you are new here, then welcome to the channel. We do these what's happening in fashion videos twice a week, usually on Monday and Friday, but then sometimes on Tuesday and Saturday. So if you're a fan and want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to talk fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments down below. I am always willing to talk fashion. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching these videos and supporting my content. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend, and as always, until next time.